Evening, everybody. Everybody ready? Deputy Commissioner Jerry Rodriguez, Jerry Rodriguez, who is in charge of our Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau, will be addressing you.
Hello. I want to start out by saying that both the police commissioner and the entire Baltimore police family is saddened by the tragic loss of life. The incident and its magnitude was clear to the commissioner who was on the scene that night. The commissioner directed that our partners in the state's attorney's office respond to the scene that night. Our most experienced detectives also responded, along with our accident investigation unit that provided a laser mapping in order to recreate the scene. The Internal Affairs Division and the city solicitor were also part of the on-scene investigation that night, including myself. The commissioner remains extremely engaged in this investigation, and we brief the commissioner daily 2 or 3 times. He has directed the investigation and has made it very clear that we are to get to the truth of the matter. He has also made it very clear that the department's pursuit policy must be adhered to. We will go wherever the evidence takes us here, and that's what we want the public to know. As in many of these cases where there is a criminal review by the state's attorney's office, with which you are working very closely, and the officer's Bill of Rights, which mandates how and when we can interview, we are working tirelessly to gather the facts. We are interviewing all of the witnesses, and we are working closely with the state's attorney's office. However, as painful as it is for us, when we have knowledge and have some information, you must understand that we have to balance the public's right to know and need to know with the integrity of this investigation. We are committed to gather all the facts, to take this investigation to the fullest extent, to understand what happened. To understand what happened for the public, for those involved that tragically lost their lives, and for the police department that is constantly faced with being proactive and serving the members of this community without risking anyone's life. That's something that we take very serious, and that's why we feel the impact. We can assure you that our pledge to be transparent, the commissioner's commitment to be transparent, has not wavered. But simply said, this is bigger than just providing information. We have the integrity of a criminal investigation with which we are working, as I stated earlier, very closely with our state's attorney's office. And we need to make sure that we set the priorities. When the investigation yields the information that we can release it, we shall do so. We will be releasing the officers' names as we have done in the past, and we will be releasing the name of the survivor. With that, I'll take some questions.
What's the name of the survivor?
We will release that to you after this.
Okay. Is there anything that you can tell us about? I mean, I know there's things that need to be worked out, but surely there are some things that you know to be true at this point, such as whether the car had lights and sirens. That's something that the department would know. You would know after listening to the dispatch tapes whether they were called off. I mean, surely there's more to be said about that, but on a basic level, is there anything that you can tell us about this investigation since very, very, very early on in the investigation when nothing was known?
I can tell you that I do know whether the officers were given any direction by their commanding officers. I do know whether the vehicle was fully equipped or not. However, what I know and what I can tell you, as I stated earlier, because this is an active investigation, because of the magnitude of what is there, I cannot release everything. I will tell you this. The vehicle did have emergency equipment. The officers were in plain clothes in a plain vehicle. It's a rental vehicle. This department has used rental vehicles for the past 10 years. The commissioner is working very aggressively to try to correct that. We feel that the department is not best served with rental vehicles, and we're working with our city partners and our elected officials to address that.
So when you say it had emergency equipment, does that mean it had lights and sirens? available?
That means that it had some equipment. Listen, I understand that I'm not giving you everything, but I need you to understand the impact that providing some of that information to potential witnesses, to potential, to individuals, that we can't do it. We cannot release the information now. As much as I want to, as much as I want to tell you what we've known, but what I can tell you is that the Commissioner is committed to get to the truth. We understand, we hear the public's concerns, and we are working tirelessly. We've dedicated our best investigators to investigate this. We have detailed our accident investigative unit to do nothing but to work on this investigation. We are doing everything we can, working in partnership with the State's Attorney's Office, which in this case will review the actions leading up to and during and after of the officers.
I think one of the challenges is that the State's Attorney's Office gets the case, and we never hear about it. I mean, sure, we can ask about it, we can make inquiries months down the line, but we don't hear anything beyond these initial statements, and I think that's the challenge, and when the public hears, just wait, there's going to be an investigation. We haven't heard about results of shooting investigations under this administration. We haven't heard about discipline in cases like the Anthony Anderson case. It just kind of goes away. Are we going to hear more about this case?
You will hear more about this case once the facts are known. You will hear more about other cases once. There's things that we cannot do until the criminal cases are done. We are bound by contracts and Maryland state law for officers that we cannot release or divulge certain things, and that's the bottom line. I could tell you that the laws here in Maryland are very explicit on officers, law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights. We work very hard to uphold those and not violate them. We work very closely with the State's Attorney's Office, and they were there that night, and we shared with them all of the information that we had. They were our partners that night. And I will not talk about the State's Attorney's Office handling, that's for them, but we work very closely with them.
The Solicitor's Office being there, that to me, I haven't heard that before. Was that specially requested? Is that typical?
No, the Commissioner has made it very clear that we are working to be responsive to the situations. And what we're developing is, in similar situations of this magnitude, whether it be an officer-involved shooting, whether it be a critical incident that results in an impact to the community, we are going to bring our resources to bear. What we don't want is what you were criticizing, Justin, and that is that for months and years, the investigations are delayed. What we're trying to do is get in front of it, bring all of our partners, every member, every office that has a piece of that investigation, bring them on early on that night so that we do not delay the investigation unnecessarily. And that's the Commissioner's commitment, and that's what you're seeing.
Can you explain the pursuit policy, just so we're all clear with it?
I'm not going to sit here and recite the pursuit policy. We will give you a copy of it. What's important is to know that there has not been a change to the pursuit policy. As you know, the pursuit policy requires that the lights and sirens be on. The issue is also not just the emergency equipment, but when you can pursue a person, for what violations. And that is what the heart of this investigation is. Were the officers following an individual based on policy? That's what we're trying to find out. Was this a situation of a vehicle pursuit? We need facts. We can't go on rumor, speculation, or hearsay. We need facts, and that's what we're after, and that's what we're going to determine.
So we had two reporters that just came in. You each have one question for the deputy before we wrap up.
Well, I'd like to know why radio calls of this incident can't be released, because previously radio calls during an investigation on a police-involved custody death were released. Is there a difference there? Can we get them if not?
It's a good question, and as in every case, every officer-involved shooting or every incident where there's a police-involved transmission, we work closely with the State's Attorney's Office, which we were saying here. And on advice of the State's Attorney's Office, because of the involvement, because of what that piece of evidence is, in this case it is not going to be released. So I want to be clear in what I'm saying. Anytime we release that, Most recently, we released it, I think it was about a month or so ago. We do it in conjunction, in cooperation with the State's Attorney's Office. In this case, the State's Attorney's Office has asked us not to release it.
Derek, I'll give you the last question.
I don't have one because I don't know what's that other.
Deputy Lieutenant, thank you. Guys, I have the name of the victim who survived in the accident. Let me give you that. We'll also email it out to your desks.